All right. So this morning, a client and I were talking about the concept of control, and there was some good nuggets in that session. And sometimes when that happens, I think, oh, let's just quickly record some of that, both so that they can go away and I suppose have some takeaways, but also it's a concept of like wanting to share the concepts that we talk about in therapy. And so today was about other things, but control. And so we were talking a little bit about, I don't actually remember how we got onto it, but like the idea of controlling and scrolling, I think we'll call it that. So the concept that control is something that gets in the way of surrender, and we all struggle with surrender, right? The concept, look at that white light coming through. You can't see that if you're on the podcast, but the concept that you actually can't control anything in this life. Not really. We're here to suffer, we're here for pain, and then we learn from it. Put in a really watered down kind of version. That's, I guess, generally the philosophy I kind of work from. So when you don't want to give in and you don't want to admit that you can't control things, the opposite then of what happens with that is control becomes this breeding ground for addiction. It might be addiction to alcohol, it might be drugs, it might be eating, it might be social media. And so I think when you look for it in yourself without judgment, with full self-compassion for the part of you that wants to control, and we all have a part that wants to control, of just noticing when you pick up your phone to go scrolling. This is the thing I've been saying to lots of people, and I used to say it to myself. I don't use social media anymore, but just when I go to pick up my phone, to be like, what are you actually looking here for? Is it to avoid an unpleasant feeling, thought, or sensation? And for a lot of us, most of the time, I think the honest answer to that is probably yes. So there is no point trying to do any work on yourself in any capacity if you're not going to be honest with yourself. Ideally, you should be honest with your therapist as well. But being honest with yourself. What am I actually doing here? And so for me, and I talk about this in my new book, Social Media Detox for Mums, something that I noticed a lot is if I was really honest with myself, a lot of the times I wasn't going to social media to connect. I wasn't really going to like research or work on my business or any of that. I was going to avoid pain and to lean into the sensation or the idea that if I can control things, then I'll ultimately be loved, accepted, appreciated, have a good life, and everything will work out, right? Which is what we all want. But it's an illusion. You just check in, I suppose, with if you've noticed things like, I'll be happy when I have X number of followers. I'll be happy when my course launches. I'll be happy when I have these, beautiful photographs taken of me and my family looking all wonderful, dressed in white on a beach, or whatever your like fantasy is. Like when you look at a picture of someone on the internet whose, life looks all wonderful, you don't see all the stuff in the background. You don't see what went to get that. So it is just a snapshot in time. And it's not to take away from people who work hard at their social media and create an image. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's false. It's false because there is no control. There is no sense of genuine when you get to a certain number of followers or you get a certain number of promotions or whatever your goals are for social media. And to be honest, I think a lot of us in the beginning didn't really set any goals. I asked people to think about that as well. Like, what was the purpose of going to social media? I started it because it was something everybody else told me I had to do for my business. And I fell into it without doing any sort of like goal setting, any sort of, I just wanted more. We want more. Like, oh, I'm supposed to get more followers. I'm supposed to post more. I'm supposed to take better pictures, like more. And ultimately, that goal becomes like a moving target that's never satisfied. There's never going to be, I'm happy when. It's just not. when you talk to people who've had some level of success, they get it. And then it's not like, wipe your hands, I'm done, I'm all satisfied and complete. You just find another goal. More money, more followers, more promotions, bigger things. And then you end up doing potentially, like, unless you got some really good checks and balances and teams, and I don't know how people manage it, it just becomes more and more and more and more and more, when really the idea should be less. Doing less stuff, because you ultimately realize there is no control. So the less that you try and control, and the more that you try to surrender to the idea that, yes, a lot of the time, this is about avoiding pain. Scrolling is not relaxation, it's numbing, right? Going on the internet to research what other people do for their business or their parenting or whatever it might be that you're looking for isn't research, it's comparisonitis. And think about how you feel when you come away from it. So there's nothing wrong with having an ego. Ego is nice. My ego was very nicely stroked when I was still on social media. And that balance between, like, okay, 20 people say, thank you so much, that was amazing, you're really helpful, rah, 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 whatever it might be, it boosts the ego. But then also when you get the criticism, because this is part of life, not everybody is going to like you, right? It hurts. So neither of those two things should be true. Neither of them are true, ultimately. If you accept the praise, then you need to accept the criticism as well, I figure. And ultimately, the way to surrender and let go of the control is to go back to the value. What is the value in my life? What is the one thing that is so big and beyond me that this is what I'm meant to do? Whether that's in your business, whether that's in your parenting, whatever in your life. Everybody's got some sort of soul mission. And I think sitting and scrolling and distracting yourself from pain and worrying about outcomes and worrying about what everybody else thinks and who's doing the latest thing and is that getting them to their business goals, it distracts from the bigger goal. The goal has to be so big and so beyond you that you don't have time, really, to think about all the ways to control, which is easier said than done. I know this is very, like, idealistic, okay, but I think that's what it comes back to. Less control, more surrender. You can't control any of these outcomes. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many videos you do, how many times you post, how many comments you follow up on, how many likes you click on. You don't control any of that. It's all an illusion. It is all an illusion. So I wanted to leave just that nugget of thinking. What if a lot of this, like, leaning into the picking up the phone for a quick check and to scroll is just about control? And can we be compassionate for ourselves? As I said, it's only one part, the part of us that wants to be liked, the part of us that wants to feel like we know what's coming next, the part of us that wants to feel secure financially, socially, emotionally, relationally, all of that. But if you let go of that, right, and realize that the ego is just the vehicle that we've got in this one life, it's not good, not bad, but leaning into, like, what's the purpose of why you're scrolling? Is it to control? Just something to think about, just something we were talking about today, and I thought it might be useful. These are reminders for myself as well. There is all of us have a part that wants to control, and all of us have a part that wants to avoid pain. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that and going, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing. And then get back to doing something that actually makes you feel joyful and makes you lit up. So again, I'm not saying don't use social media. I'm just saying use it discerningly. Think about what are you actually doing in your mind, your emotions, your body, your spirit when you turn up there. And just get really, really clear on that. Okay, bye.